Hello and welcome to a new video. In this video, I'm going to be covering one of the most popular champions in the entire game of Wild Rift. And that's right, I'm going to be going over Yasuo today. In this guide, you'll be learning everything that will take you from a noob Yasuo who feeds 0-20 in mid to a Yasuo who can carry himself all the way to Challenger and use all the tricks that the pros use. In this guide, I'll be covering everything that you need to know when you play Yasuo, and in this video, I'll be going over his abilities, his combos, his build, his rune setup, his spells, and I'll be giving you tips and tricks for playing Yasuo, as well as how to play him in the early, mid, and late game. So I highly recommend staying for the entire video, as you will get all my insight on all of the things that I talk about in this video, as well as all the tricks and tips. Even if you think that you know everything about Yasuo, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to learn something from each section of this video. So with that being said, let's get right into the guide. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be covering is Yasuo's skill order. He wants to be leveling up his first skill at the start of the game so he can be going in for those damage combos. After that, he wants to be leveling up his third skill and then his second skill. If you're playing a melee champion that does not have any ranged attacks, then you can level up your first skill twice before leveling up your second skill. After that, you want to be maxing them out in that exact order. So you want to max out your first skill first, and then max out your third skill second, and then max out your second skill last. And put points into your ultimate whenever you can. So Yasuo's passive is when he gets attacked by an enemy champion or monsters, then he'll proc a shield. You can see how far his shield is from coming up through the blue bar over his head. And this will only be procced by enemy champions or by jungle monsters. So this will not be procced by turrets. So Yasuo's first skill has three different forms. The first one is just a normal thrust, where he'll just thrust his sword into the enemy normally. But then every time he hits an enemy, he gains stacks. And at 2 stacks, he shoots a tornado that will deal knockup and can combo into his ult. So that's the second form. The third form is after he uses a dash. If he uses a dash and then his first skill, he will be doing an attack that will hit around the enemy. If he uses that attack when he has 2 stacks, then his attack will deal knockup. Yasuo's second skill is a wind wall, and this blocks all enemy projectiles. Just ultimates, skill shots, auto attacks, it blocks everything. And it's a great counter to ults like Misfortune ult. This lasts for 4 seconds, and it will increase in size once you level it up more. An important thing to note when you use this skill is that it will provide vision over walls. So if an enemy is on the other side, you can use it for vision over that wall. So Yasuo's third skill is a dash, and this allows him to dash towards enemy targets. You cannot dash towards an enemy target that has already been dashed to recently, and you can see the cooldown of that with the blue circles that go around an enemy target. This skill is useful for gap closing and getting on top of your enemies, especially if they have a minion wave in front of them. You can use this to hop onto the minions and finally gap close onto them, and it's great for all-ins. The next skill in Yasuo's kit is his ultimate. His ultimate allows him to get on top of an enemy after they become knocked up. You cannot use it unless there are enemies that are knocked up, and then you can use your ult. You can use your ult on up to as many enemies as you can knock up. And this is a great tool and is used in many of Yasuo's combos. After using this ult, You will also gain some armor penetration, which is amazing for shredding down enemies with lots of armor, like bruisers or tanks, especially in the late game where Yasuo becomes an absolute beast if he is fed. But remember, you can only use his ult after a knockup, and the knockup is in this radius. This also means that the knockup doesn't need to come from you. The knockup can come from also your allied champions. So if your allied champions have a knockup, for example Braum or Blitzcrank, then you can use your ult to combo into their knockup. So Yasuo's first combo, and the one that he wants to do when he's going for a basic trade at level 1, is just using his auto attack, and then using his first skill, and then auto attacking once more. And this gives him a huge power spike early game, as there are not many champions that can beat him level 1 because this combo is really strong. So again, it's just auto attack, first skill, and then an auto attack, like that. Yasuo's second combo that he can do in lane easily after he hits level 2 is first dashing towards an enemy champion, and then using an auto attack and his first skill to damage them, and then after that dashing out using a minion. And this will allow him to get in and out really quickly, and if you have his passive up, it'll allow you to take really nice trades even in the enemy minion wave. So Yasuo's very basic all-in combo is without flash. So first he hits his target with 2 of his first skill to proc his first skill's passive. After that, you use your first skill and second skill to knock up the enemy. After that, you auto attack while they're knocked up, and then ult to get the maximum damage. So at full speed, it looks something like this. So now we're going to be going into Yasuo's combos that he can use when he has flash. The first one is pretty simple. He can extend the range of his first skill by using flash. So it looks like that. And it's useful when you want to catch an enemy off guard. When you don't have your first skill's passive up and they think that they're safe, you can just use this combo when you think that you can finish them off and you need that extra range. So another combo that you can do with flash is using his first skill's passive, so when he has the tornado up, and extending it with flash. So it looks like that, and it'll extend the range of your first skill. This is useful when you want to trick an enemy or catch them off guard. And after this, we're going to be going into the advanced combos. So now we're going to be going into Yasuo's advanced combos. And the first one we're going to be learning is called Beyblade. And this is a really deceptive combo that looks really flashy. However, it's pretty easy to pull off, and once you've practiced it a couple times, you can be pulling it off consistently in your games. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your first skill's passive up. And then after, you're going to be dashing to this target and then using your first skill and then flashing so the knockup actually goes to this target. So at full speed, it'll look something like this. So now we have Yasuo's all-in, but his advanced one that he's going to use after Beyblade. So it's basically using Beyblade on a target, but after you knock them up, you're going to auto attack and then ult them to deal a bunch of damage. And so it's basically surprising the enemy with your knockup auto-attacking to gain extra damage, and then ulting to finish them off, or just to CC them more. So how it looks is something like this. Now I'm going to be teaching you Yasuo's second advanced combo, which is Airblade. It's still an essential combo to learn on Yasuo, and it looks really flashy and cool, so if you do pull it off in your games, it'll definitely look pretty epic. So how it works is you're basically going to need your passive stacks, and then you're going to use the tornado on this target, and then you're going to dash and use your first skill onto that target, and then ult before the damage goes onto this target. And what that will do is transfer the damage from this target to that target. So at full speed, it'll look something like this. For the Airblade combo, you need to make sure that the animation goes onto the target that you're trying to hit, not the target that you dashed and used your third skill on. Because if you do that, then the damage will just go onto the target that you dashed towards, not the target that you ulted. So you need to make sure to do it quickly and make sure that the damage went to the target that you ulted to. How you can make sure that this happened is that you'll see the animation on the person that you ulted to rather than the person that you dashed to. So Yasuo's last and final combo, and the one that's most flashy and the hardest to do out of the three, is called his Keyblade combo. And this is a combination of his Beyblade and then his Airblade combos. So how this combo works is, first you want to be doing a Beyblade onto a target. So it just looks like that, a normal Beyblade. And then dashing through the target using your first skill and then ulting all in the same time. And there's a very small window that you can do this in. It's around 0.5 seconds. Your first skill needs to be at 0.5 seconds when you dash through the target and use this combo. Yasuo's Keyblade combo will also give you 1 proc on your first skill, so that's how you can check if you did this combo properly. If you don't have the proc on your first skill, that means you did it incorrectly and you did not press your first skill before you ulted, which means you didn't do it fast enough. So be sure to check if you did it properly. And this combo is really hard to pull off, so practice it a lot before trying it in a real game, because it is really hard to pull off. So for Yasuo's first item, I would recommend either going Static Shiv or Blade of the Ruined King. For his first item, for a more conventional option for beginners, I would recommend Blade of the Ruined King for more attack damage and attack speed. This ability also gives you a great passive for all-ins. The passive on this ability slows enemies and deals extra damage after hitting them with 3 different attacks or abilities. And this passive has a 60-second cooldown, so if you buy this item, you'll be able to go for an all-in, and it'll be a pretty big power spike. This item will also give you physical vamp, and make your attacks deal bonus physical damage. So it's an all-around great item for Yasuo. The second item that you want to be getting is Static Shiv, and this item is great for Yasuo as it gives him critical rate and attack speed. This item will also stack for its passive and deal bonus magic damage to nearby enemies, and each hit can crit, so it's a great item for wave clear and for team fights. The next item that you want to be getting are boots. So for your boots items, I would recommend going Ninja Tabby if the enemy team comp is mostly AD. However, you can also go Mercury Treads if the enemy team comp is mostly AP and also has lots of CC. If you're winning lane and you're snowballing and they have an even split between AD and AP, going Gluttonous Greaves isn't a half bad idea, as the physical vamp on it plays pretty well with Yasuo's kit. The enchantment that you want to go on Yasuo is pretty conditional. I like going Stasis against lots of assassins and burst oriented champions, as well as champions that have knockup. However, the Quicksilver Sash is a great item against enemy champions that have lots of crowd control and can root you or stun you. The last enchant that you want to be going on Yasuo is the Teleport enchant, and this is when you want to be split pushing if you're playing Baron lane and you want to split push, or even when you're playing mid lane and you want to split push, however still join team fights in time to be impactful, you probably want to be taking Teleport. The next item that you want to be going for is Infinity Edge, and this will give you both attack damage as well as critical rate. Critical strikes will deal extra damage with this item, and since Yasuo is a crit AD carry in the late game, this item synergizes pretty well with his kit. The next item after that you want to be going for are two situational items. The first situational item that I would recommend is Bloodthirster, and this is when you're snowballing and you need the extra attack damage as well as the physical vamp. This item is great for Yasuo as it'll generate a shield that will absorb damage when he has enough vamp. The next item that you want to be considering other than Bloodthirster is Phantom Dancer. This is a much safer option against assassins and burst oriented champions, especially if you see yourself getting too low. Then this is an item that will provide you a shield and will allow you to stay in the fight for a bit longer. Another item that you can consider is Guardian Angel. Even though this item got nerfed, it's still a decent item on Yasuo, as it will provide him a revive when he goes into the front lines and give him some extra health and mana to either keep on chasing down enemies or disengage. But keep in mind that this item got nerfed and now has a 210 second cooldown. So only buy this item if you think you can get the max value out of it. So for Yasuo's rune, the keystone rune that you want to be going on Yasuo is Conqueror most of the time, because this rune will stack your AD damage during team fights and during skirmishes or just trading in lane. It's overall a great rune for Yasuo and enables him to gain that extra attack damage. The next rune that you can be taking is Brutal, and I like this rune because it will give you damage straight from the get-go, and this is important for Yasuo because you need to get that snowball rolling right from the start, or else you will fall off and just start feeding. However, if you do get those early kills, you scale so well into the game that you'll be able to dominate the late game. So after taking Brutal, I would recommend taking a situational rune. I usually run Regeneration to give him that sustain in lane and that sustain for all-in combos, also to help him be less susceptible to ganks and from things like that, so Yasuo can stay healthy in lane. The last rune that I like taking again is Honey Fruit, and this rune is for healing Yasuo and making sure that he has enough sustain to survive in lane and against those ganks, as I said. The other rune that he can be taking is Mastermind if he wants to be going for more split pushes and for more objectives. However, most of the time I would recommend Sweet Tooth to get that extra healing and gold. For Yasuo's spells, I would always recommend taking Flash as his first spell. Not only because it gives you so much combo potential, also because Yasuo's third skill is not a reliable escape tool. It's great for outplaying enemies, however, often when you want to escape, there are not going to be minions behind you and you're just going to die. So what you want to be doing is always take Flash as your first spell. So the next spell that you want to be considering is Ignite, and you want to be taking Ignite especially if your enemy laner is a squishier target. This will give you extra burst as well as enable you to finish off your target. You also want to be considering this if you're playing against a champion with lots of heal. For example, if you're playing against a Fiora in the Baron lane, you want to be taking Ignite to impair her healing and making sure that you can keep that in check. The other spell that you can consider with Yasuo is Barrier, and this is if you have an annoying time playing against assassins like Zed or Fizz. If you feel like you keep on losing to assassins like that, taking Barrier isn't a too bad option, as you will outscale them, and Ignite doesn't scale too well into the game if the enemy has no healing. So if you want to take Barrier, that is completely fine. So for Yasuo's game plan, I would recommend in the early laning phase just to go in and only take trades at level 1 and 2, as those are his power spikes. However, at level 3, 4, you want to be playing a little bit more passively, as other champions will power spike and get ahead of you. So be sure to take trades only when you know that they will work 100% of the time, and be sure to utilize your passive in the laning phase, as it is a great trading tool and something that you should be using often. Also, make sure not to take too much minion aggro, as that will make you weaker and lose more trades, because I see lots of Yasuos taking way too much minion aggro. I know you need to get right into the enemy's face to deal the most amount of damage, however, be sure to keep an eye on your own health bar also. Also, since Yasuo scales into the game, you do not need to get too many kills during the laning phase. If you get a kill, that's amazing. However, if you die, it can cause you to die multiple times in the lane. So it's often much better safe than sorry, because Yasuo does not have an escape tool other than his flash. So that means that you want to be playing a bit more safely, and especially when you don't know where the enemy jungler is, you want to be sure to play a bit more back, because enemy junglers often like to hover mid when Yasuo is on the enemy team, because he has no escape tool and is pretty easy to kill when he has no flash. In the mid game, you want to be split pushing a bit more, as Yasuo has a lot of AD and attack speed, so he can be taking down those turrets extremely quickly. Also, you want to be looking around the map to make sure that you don't get ganked or bad things don't happen to you, because again, Yasuo's only escape tool is his third skill and his flash, and if there are no minions behind you, you are basically dead. So be sure to have great map awareness in the mid game and look to capitalize on your teammates' knockups. So if you know that someone on your team has a knockup, you can use that to your advantage and ult right after they knock up. So you can spam your ult when you know they're about to use their knockup. Also, in team fights, I would recommend not being the first one to engage, or else everyone will just kill you. If you're engaging first in every team fight, you're probably doing something wrong. Be sure to have someone else engage first, and then after, you can go in with your knockup and your ult and do all those flashy combos that you learned and obliterate the enemy team. And that's how Yasuo wants to teamfight, unless he's extremely fed and can 1v5 and get those pentakills. Other than that, just remember to play safe and play for the late game, as you are one of the strongest late game champions with your amazing attack damage and your crit. Lastly, for Yasuo's late game, he is just a dominant force in the late game, one of the scariest champs to be against in the late game, especially if he's fed. You can go for your pentakills, you can go in, however, remember not to be the first one to engage and don't absolutely troll and 1v5. Be sure to be with your team when you engage, and don't be a feeder Yasuo. Be sure to be looking for those smart plays and be going for those smart engages. Don't randomly 1v5 into the enemy team. You're probably not going to win, so be sure to think about that. Also, you can do more split pushes in the late game as your attack damage and attack speed are absolutely ridiculous. Especially if you took teleport, that means that you can be split pushing, and when you think a team fight is about to occur, you can teleport near the team fight to join in or get a flank. So be sure to keep that in mind with Yasuo in the late game. So my first tip for Yasuo is just don't die. Don't int into the enemy team if you don't know where the jungler is. I know I've already said this, but I cannot stress this enough because a lot of beginner Yasuos think that they can just go in and do whatever they want and somehow still survive. Unfortunately, as I already said, Yasuo lacks mobility, so you want to be playing a bit more safely and giving up CS, which is completely fine since you scale better into the late game. I know it's really hard to resist the urge to go in, and because Yasuo is a melee champ with only melee abilities apart from the passive on his first skill, you really want to go in and try to outplay people. However, if you play patiently, I promise you the opportunity will present itself. The second tip I have with Yasuo is to learn proper wave management, and this is critical to playing Yasuo. Freezes are Yasuo's best friend because freezing will not only make you less susceptible to ganks and help you farm more safely, it will also put the enemy in a bad position near your side of the map. And this means if they make one mistake or if they waste a key skill shot or key cooldown, you can just go in and punish the enemy, especially if they have bad mobility. And this is what makes Yasuo so scary to lane against. He can easily punish mistakes with his dashes. He can dash through the enemy minion wave and easily punish enemy mistakes. So definitely be looking to freeze and manage your waves properly. I cannot stress this enough. If you do not know how to manage your waves properly, I have a wave management guide, and I'll be leaving a link in the description, and there should be a link on the screen. There will also be a card at the end of the video, so you can click any one of those if you want to learn how to manage waves, because it's absolutely critical with Yasuo. Whenever I see a Yasuo player mess this up, I already know that this game is already lost for them because they don't know how to manage waves. My third tip for Yasuo is to always sneak in an auto attack before your ult if you're the one who knocks someone up. This is especially important in 1v1 situations where every bit of damage counts. The auto attack that you can put in before you ult is free damage, and you almost always want to be going for it. The only times where you don't want to be going for your auto attack or first skill before your ult is when you need to ult as soon as possible. For example, if you're really low or you think the jungler is going to be ganking soon or something like that. Those are the only situations where you don't want to sneak an auto attack or first skill before you ult. But if not, always go for that auto attack and then ult. And with that, I think that wraps up this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. This guide took a long time to make. I want to be telling you guys that I'm probably going to be doing a giveaway sometime in the near future, maybe around the 400 subscriber milestone, something like that, because I know that you enjoyed the last one, and I'll be putting more winners for winning the skin giveaway. Maybe I'll put 3 winners but have the skin at a less cost. Tell me what you think about that in the comments below. This guide was made especially for all of you Yasuo mains out there who have been asking for a guide for him. And I know I've been doing some macro guides lately, and those will be continuing to be put out because I know a lot of you guys like those kind of guides, and some of you guys have been asking for more via Discord. Also, I have my Discord server in the description below. If you want to check it out, you can. It's a little bit dead right now. However, if you ask any questions on there, I will try to reply as soon as I can. as well as I'm going to be doing some events there in the near future. So join if you want to participate in those events and have some fun, or if you're just looking for some teammates to team up to rank up, then definitely be joining that Discord server. Before the video ends, I just quickly want to say some of the gameplay comes from Coldblade's channel. Unfortunately, I couldn't use my gameplay for this video because when I record, sometimes I get some latency. And when that happens, obviously you need no lag to play Yasuo optimally. So I have linked his channel in the description below if you want to go check him out. So with that being said, I will see you soon. Bye!